I do a lot of video production on the Fuji system, especially on my new X-T4. And after years of testing multiple options across different productions, here are the top 5 lenses I'd recommend for shooting video on Fuji. Good morning and welcome back everyone. And really quickly, before I get started, most of you watching are probably not subscribed to the channel. So if you're interested and you find value in this, and you also like reviews that are a bit more real world based, or you like tutorials that get right to the point, please do consider subscribing to the channel because it does make a difference. Now let's talk about this list. There are several zoom lenses for the Fuji X mount and a few cinema options as well, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But the 16-55, this one just sits a little bit higher than the rest of the lenses for me. The sharpness throughout the focal range, the ability to have that consistent aperture of f2.8 throughout that focal range are really the primary reasons, but also the image quality itself. It isn't too contrasty. Some of the other zoom lenses, it just doesn't render as nicely as this lens does. And that's largely because you have these many specialized pieces of glass along with unique coatings that render this true to life image. And when you pair this with the Eterna film simulation, you're getting a fantastic result more times than not. On top of this, you have a really quick focusing motor, and the lens is weather resistant as well, shooting as low as -10 degrees Celsius. The 16-55 is that do-it-all versatile lens, a near 24-70 equivalent. It just makes you capture a wide array of things really well. So before I get into some of the specialty selections, if you're doing a lot of video and your environment varies, this is the first lens that I would recommend, the 16-55 f2.8. The next one is the 23mm f2.0, and I have a review of this lens. It's one of my most watched videos, so go ahead and check that out for more information. But this lens, even though it doesn't perform as well, wide open and up close on a subject, when you're looking to capture documentary style footage, this over the shoulder footage in really dynamic environments as well and on the go, it's just a fun lens to use that results in pretty good imagery. It's just a fun lens to use that works quite reliably. The autofocus is stupid quick, especially if you're doing any vlog style footage, and it's that 35mm equivalent focal length that closely resembles what the human eye experiences. And add to this, it's very portable and has weather sealing as well, making you want to use it in more environments than not. You really want to shoot north of f4 to get the optimal results, but it's something that is really accessible by most people. Because of its entry-level price, more people can go ahead and get started with this thing. It was the first lens that I got for the X mount and really push your creativity forward. So if you're looking for a really useful, robust prime lens, I'd recommend that f2 23mm from Fujifilm. Before I continue, I just want to say that my print shop is still open with a few prints still available. So if you're interested in supporting the channel and getting some dope artwork in return, check it out. The link is below. These images are captured, edited, and printed by yours truly, and each one is signed and numbered with free shipping across North America. So if you're interested, check it out. It does make a difference. Now, back to this list. The next lens I want to talk about is the 90mm f2.0. If you're getting really serious about video, you're gonna want options, and the 90mm just gives you a really different option for video. This is the one that I started using as a B camera lens, where it just gives such a unique perspective than the traditional lenses that I would use head on. Because it can get so tight, it just results in a very intimate perspective, and it works especially well on your second camera. It also helps that this is one of the most premium products made by Fujifilm, with weather sealing, some of the best optics and sharpness, and a stupid fast focusing motor. It's really great stuff and incredibly versatile. I will say though, if you're an event shooter in more dynamic environments and you're not storyboarding and doing narrative work, I'd replace this with the 50-140, and I did a review of that lens, so check that out as well. So if you're in more dynamic environments, go with that. But if you are scripting, if you are in a bit more control, this 90 is really, really special. So this is the next one on my list. Moving on, this one was a little bit difficult to decide on because I was torn. I wanted to pick the Midicon 35mm f/0.95. I have a review on my channel with that lens, but ultimately I went with a 35mm f/1.4. And I did a review of this lens as well and get really in depth as to why I like this lens, and originally I didn't think I would. It is because of its imperfections. When I use this lens, I'm using it in manual focus because the autofocus sucks, even with the modern cameras, and it gets noisy sometimes too. It's more about the character, the imperfections of this lens. It allows for a really unique capture style that when you pair with certain film simulations, it almost, okay, it doesn't really, but kind of gravitates towards shooting on film. Not quite exactly, and hey, we're not talking about cinema solutions here, but it just ekes toward a more different style than you would get with these optically sound lenses from Fujifilm. There is no weather sealing, the focusing is unreliable, and the results, well, it might be largely due to its optical imperfections, but for me, it's so unique that I feel like it's worth having as part of this video kit. So if you're a little adventurous and want to try something that will add a unique flavor to your video, consider the 35mm f/1.4. The last lens on this list is the 16mm f/1.4. Why would I include a lens that's already covered by a zoom lens that I mentioned earlier in this video? Well, this lens is just that good. It's too good to pass up. One, you have the option to go as wide as f/1.4, making shooting in low light environments really a possibility. And add to that, you have this wide perspective. I talk about this in my review, where it's wide but not too wide, not garishly wide, and it allows you to capture footage in an interesting perspective, especially if you add some intentional movements to it. You also have a focusing clutch that's fixed. It doesn't rotate forever, allowing you to focus manually with a bit more ease. And it's one of the few premium lenses from Fujifilm that has weather sealing as well. If you're looking for a wider perspective and you're capturing a lot of groups of people or dance or landscapes or architecture, buildings, for example, I will say you have to consider this 16mm f/1.4. It is really special to use and optically one of the best lenses that Fuji makes. One thing I want to add is that all the lenses I mentioned, they were designed with photography in mind. They weren't made for a lot of these advanced video features that the new Fuji cameras usher in. So if you're looking for the best, if you're looking for something to really level up and you're a bit of a seasoned videographer, you're gonna wanna look at cinema lenses. There's still a good amount of affordable options out there, and there's even the Fuji X-mount cinema lenses if you wanna rent those. And on this note, I'd like to see Fuji get a little bit more serious about their new lenses and think about video in mind, or even consider releasing some manual focus cinema lenses that are a bit more affordable for this audience. Anyways, I've gone ahead and given you my list, but more importantly, I'd like to hear what your favorites are. So if you're capturing video on a Fuji system, what are your go-to lenses? Let me know in the comments below and let's continue the conversation there. As always, my name's Gadgen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.